Hi, I'm Tony Wellington, doing my bit for World Book Day celebration. You know, the book that really got me into reading was Randolph Stowe's coming-of-age story, Merry-Go-Round in the Sea. It's about a child growing up in a farming community during the Second World War, and he gradually becomes aware that the world around him is full of dangers and evil. That understanding is kind of reflected back as a result of his hero cousin who goes off to war and comes back damaged. It's a book about loss of innocence, that inevitable process that we all have to go through in order to mature. But it's so beautifully, perfectly crafted that passages of it still remain in my mind 50 years later after first reading it. In fact, it's a book that I go back to every now and then and pull off the shelf just so I can immerse myself in Stowe's absolutely sublime prose. My reading rituals are kind of broken into two parts. There's daytime reading, which is strictly for research and what my unconscious brain defines as work. And then there's reading for pleasure, which happens at night. It's the old Protestant work ethic thing where leisure activities have to be separated from the working hours. Sometimes my work-based research reading also happens after the workday in the evening, and that's okay. But what I can't allow myself to do is to read for pleasure during the daytime. I know, it's weird. Mostly I read non-fiction for both pleasure and work. I enjoy delving into the subtext of biographies because what's left out is often as interesting as what's been included. And I love books that explore and theorise about our society and culture. Things like Malcolm Gladwell, Yuval Noah Harari, that sort of thing. I also like books on Australian politics, and being an avid wildlife photographer, any book on Australian wildlife will keep me entertained for hours. I once told myself that when I retire, I'll enjoy reading during the day just for the fun of it. The trouble is, I can't see myself ever retiring. So here's what I'll be reading today. For research, I'll be delving into Carolyn Collins' wonderful book, Save Our Sons. It's an account of the Australian women's organisation that campaigned against the Vietnam War and against conscription in the 60s and 70s. And I'll also, for my work situation, be dipping into Elton John's memoir, which is simply titled Me. And tonight, for pleasure, I'll be curling up in bed with Henry Reynolds' book, Truth Telling, which is about the colonisation of Australia and why the Uluru Statement from the Heart is so important to our cultural healing. I've written on various subjects, but my most recent release is a book titled Freak Out: How a Musical Revolution Rocked the World in the 60s. It's released by Monash University Publishing. It's a deep dive into the culture, the politics, the social movements, and most importantly, the music of that crazy decade. Because the 60s established so many movements that are still current today. The women's, black and gay rights movements, environmentalism, etc. But it most importantly also provided the template for all modern rock music. And as Frank Zappa once said, all music is a commentary on society. That's it from me. Happy reading, everyone.